The following is a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio. From hot dogs to cool kitties, this is Darkside of the Pooch.
I got Rainer down here in the studio with me, Dr. Rab. Give me a good bark. You ought to see Rainer's ears perking up in here. That was very, very good. This is Darkside of the Pooch. He's Dr. Rab Stewart of the Rossbridge Animal Hospital. I'm Tony Kurre, your co-host. This is a show about pet care. And if you've never listened to the show, you're going to love the show because this is not about, my dog has fleas, what should I do? We get emails here from info@tonykurreradio.net, info@tonykurreradio.net from all over the country, and certainly right here where we reside in Hoover, Alabama. If you shoot down the street a little bit, though, and go to Homewood, you're going to see Ed's Pet World, our proud sponsor of Darkside of the Pooch. Ed's Pet World is known for all their exotic pets, chinchillas, rabbits, fish. They have tarantulas. They have caiman alligators. They got everything when it comes to exotic pets, and they'll make sure they do everything they possibly can to make sure you have a nice lifelong relationship with your exotic pet. Plus, Seth loves toys. He goes all over the country collecting toys, buys vintage toys, Star Wars stuff still in the box. If you want to buy, sell, or trade, you find something in your attic, go to Ed's Pet World for all your pets and your toy needs. They're fantastic. Ed's Pet World, check them out. Dr. Rab, how you been, brother? We missed you last week. Everything good this summer so far? Staying cool?
Yeah, everything's great. Took a little trip with family, caught some fish,
Nice.
ate some fish. It was fun. But back on the Ed's Pet World on the toy front.
Yeah.
My wife found 3 huge bins of Beanie Babies, and I was like,
Dude.
So what are we going to do with these Beanie Babies? She said, we're going to save them. They're worth so much money. And I said, they're absolutely not worth any money. So what are we going to do with these things? So I don't know. Maybe I'll take my loads of Beanie Babies to Seth and see what he says about
You might be surprised. They're coming back a little bit. You know, some of the rare ones are worth some pretty good checks. So go down there and maybe, get some cash or some store trade or something, man. You'll be good to go.
That's what I want. I want to trade for a chinchilla.
You know what? I'd love to have a chinchilla, too. They are pretty cool. They've got them down there. They also have ferrets down there, too, but they bite. I'm not too crazy about ferrets. His number is 205-208-0301, 208-0301 at Rossbridge Vet on Twitter, the Rossbridge Animal Hospital, of course, on Facebook as well. We got lots of questions. We haven't talked since the 4th of July, and I want to get into it's called My Pet Funding. It's leasing pets. I want to talk about that a little bit. We also have some great email questions, but I saw something really, really interesting, and I wanted to throw it your way. More pets are lost on the 4th of July than any other day of the year. It makes sense because there's a lot of fireworks going on. People are outside. Their animals run around. They're scared. They're skittish. They're anxiety-filled, blah, 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 blah. But out of all pets lost through a calendar year, what percentage of those pets are returned to their owners? Do you know?
38%.
Let's go 14%.
Oh, that's not good.
That's not good at all. And the first thing I'm thinking of is, obviously, if you're walking around a neighborhood and you got a purebred dog that's worth some money, I can certainly see I've seen dogs being stolen. So why do you think that number is so low? And that goes back to 2010. I was really surprised. So whenever you're putting up that missing cat poster or I've lost my dog, there's a 9 in 10 chance you ain't going to see that animal again. Why is that, you think?
Probably because somebody scoops them up. Not maliciously, but if a dog or cat runs away and they don't have a collar on, or they're not microchipped, and we can talk more about that in a minute, then it's kind of hard to find that owner, even if you put up flyers, because some of these pets will go a pretty good ways, several miles potentially. And somebody who finds a pet, I don't really think they're going to canvass like a several mile radius putting flyers up everywhere.
Yeah.
But, so I think some of them just don't have the proper ID to get reunited, or maybe some people that find the pets don't care about reuniting it. They just want, hey, it's a free pet. But some of them die too. Hopefully that number is really low, but some of them are going to die.
So what is the best way? I know you mentioned microchipping. A lot of people are like, I ain't going to do that. I'm telling you, it is a smart way to go. Obviously, having a dog collar on and having some identification. What's the best way to make sure your pet is returned if, in fact, because I totally agree with you. I can't tell you how many times I see dogs in our neighborhood, and they're neighborhood dogs, but they don't have any collars. So they don't have any names on them. They don't have phone numbers. I wouldn't even know where to return them to.
Yeah. The microchip is not expensive. And, I think it's about 50 or $60, and it's a little device. It's about a size of a grain of rice. You put it in underneath the skin with a kind of a larger gauge needle, and it just sits in there, and it doesn't cause any problems. It's sterile. And if you ever lose your pet, the trick is, if you lose your pet, it's got to wind up at either a veterinary practice or a humane shelter, because once they wind up there, every pet that comes in there is going to be scanned for the microchip, and there's a little device that reads the microchip, and we get the number off that, and then we call the company that makes the microchip, and then the company calls the owner. So, there is a little bit of a problem if the pet doesn't eventually make it to a place that has a microchip reader, because there's no way for it to be tracked by the owner. They do make these really cool GPS collars that you can, if you want to invest in one of those, you can put it on the dog and then or cat, and then you can track it through the collar. But if the collar gets removed either by a person or by the pet, it does you no good. I mean, it'll track you to wherever the collar came off. But I mean, just having something on there old school that's got, the tag, if lost, call this number.
Yeah.
It would be helpful. So microchips, they're great. They're cheap. I think that every single pet should have one, because it's a good way. It's a good fail-safe way. Should everything else fail, no collar, even if it's a GPS collar, or, the tags get torn off or whatever, you cannot take out that chip. It's in there. But the trick is they've got to be taken to a place that's got a reader.
Yeah. Whenever we had the blue heeler over here, along with Rainer, the blue heeler would always jump the fence. Rainer won't jump the fence on his own, but when she would, he would. And I've always wanted to get something like a Dog Pro. Instead of a GoPro, I wanted to get a Dog Pro, and I would love to put a camera on this animal and find out where exactly they go, because we can never figure out. They came back muddy. I think that would be fascinating documentary.
You could do it. I mean, as long as you were cool with potentially losing your GoPro camera.
Yeah, or your animal. Yeah. That'd be great. All right, so and you brought up a great point before we get to our emails here. And again, info@TonyCurryRadio.net. You can hear the show every Monday. Every Monday is Darkside the Pooch Day here at noon and 8. And, of course, you can also check us out on Spotify. We have well over 40 or 50 shows up there, and there's great shows, and every show is different. All your emails are on there, so please send your emails, and we'll get to them. But the myth that an animal that is placed at the dog pound is going to be euthanized. I've heard this ever since I was a child. Oh my gosh, if your dog's sent to a dog pound and no one claims that dog over a period of time, it's going to be put down. What's the truth there?
I don't think there's any truth to that at all.
Good.
I mean, is it possible? I mean, yeah, it's possible. But I have seen the Greater Birmingham Humane Society take dogs in that are elderly and maybe have even a chronic medical condition, and they get those dogs adopted. Yeah. So, I mean, there's no guarantee there's no guarantee, but there are pets that I just think there's no way that this pet's gonna make it out of here. Yeah. And they do. They're so good. So, but again, go back to the microchip thing. If your pet's microchipped and it gets to the Humane Society, that's never ever going to be an option, as long as your information is up to date on that microchip, because the Humane Society is going to call you and say, hey, we got your pet here. Let's go. Yeah.
He's Dr. Rab Stewart to Rossbridge Animal Hospital. He's the best. I'm fixing to get him a new customer here with James Michael Keats, my director of operations. He's getting his beautiful Australian Shepherd here in a couple of weeks. So we're going to talk about that perhaps in some future shows. I'm looking forward to that. I don't know if this is because I do a lot of investigating. I do a lot of research for this show to make sure I know what I'm talking about. And it seems like when it comes to dogs and cats right now, There are ownership issues. There are adoption issues. There's fostering issues. And I say issues. There's abandonment issues. And I don't know if it's because so many dogs were at home with people over the last couple of years because of COVID. I don't know if more people are adopting animals that can't do it. And so I found this interesting story that I was not aware of, but 42 states currently have laws where you can lease pets. And how this works is just like anything else. You lease to own. So if you are buying a $600 or $700 or $800 dog or cat and can't pay for it, it's called My Pet Funding, which, by the way, recently has been shut down. They finance your opportunity to get this dog, and at the end of your lease, you have to pay a set amount, and you get to keep the animal. But if you don't and you can't, they take the animal away from you. How relevant and prevalent are these pet leasing situations, and have you heard of that before?
I mean, not in this, not in the way that it was presented in that article. I've never heard of it. But I mean, it clearly exists. And I guess before we get too far down this road, and I forget to say this, I would strongly discourage anyone doing this because it sounds like such a racket.
Yeah.
So, because when I read it, a lease is one thing. And when I hear the word lease, I think of an apartment. You're leasing an apartment. It's never going to be yours.
Yes.
You understand that. But, you mentioned this. What this is basically like a rent-a-center, like a rent-to-own kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Because, you're making payments on it, and then eventually at the end it's going to be yours. But then the last payment, they like double it or triple it in this article. So, that seems really unfair. It seems like a lose-lose for everybody, even maybe the company that's doing the leasing, because, I mean, trust me, fortunately, I have not had to worry about this very often, but there's a lot of people in the veterinary field that do. Trying to get money out of people that don't want to pay you is not as easy as it seems. Number one. So, the leasing company is, they're kind of on the hook. And then the owner or the person doing the leasing, it's not a good situation for them, because I'll tell everyone listening right now that if you cannot afford to buy a dog, then you're not going to be able to afford its care.
There you go.
So if you can't afford to change the oil and put gas into your car and keep it maintained, you cannot afford a car. So don't buy it.
When I first saw this, I thought to myself, because we know that babies and dogs attract women, right, in parks. And I thought when I saw this dog leasing, I'm thinking, first of all, that's not fair to the animal. But if you wanted to lease a dog for like a week or two, for whatever reason, I don't know why you'd want to do that, but maybe you out to pick up people. I don't know. I kind of get that. But yeah, to lease an animal, because obviously the longer you had that animal, the more in love you're going to be with it. And then these particular women, I think it was up in Massachusetts, which, by the way, it's not legal there. So they got their animals back, but they spent $3,000 a dog. And they paid for 3 years, and all of a sudden we're hit with a $6,000 fee on the day. And they basically came and took their animals away. And I'm thinking to myself, it's like kids. Think about the animals here. I mean, they're used to this wonderful home for the last 3 years. They have a loving family, and all of a sudden they're back in a pound again. It does seem like an extreme racket. And I was really surprised that it's legal in 42 states.
Yeah, the animal is the one that really gets the short end of the stick, because they're snatched away if the person doesn't make the payment. So, I mean, really, I feel like and this is the case in so many things, but the real degenerates here are the people, not the pets. The degenerates in this story are the people. I mean, I'm sure it's worked out, like for some people, for whatever reason, but you can get a really cheap dog at the Humane Society.
Yep.
Just like we talked about. So it sounds like, I don't know, sounds like a bad situation.
This is like someone making $35,000 a year and they want to rent a Mercedes or lease a Mercedes, and then it gets repoed. They can't afford it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And the other thing, if you just want to have a dog for a short period of time, then there are some great rescues that you can be a foster for. Mm-hmm. And then you have the best of both worlds. You don't have to buy a thing. You might have to, buy some dog food and stuff.
Yeah.
but the fosters take care of the veterinary care that it needs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, the agencies or the rescues. The
Mm-hmm.
rescues will pay for their veterinary care, so the foster home doesn't have to pay for anything.
There you go.
And then when it comes time for somebody to adopt the dog, then it's gone.
Yeah.
You know?
That's a good thing. Dr. Rab Stewart, Ross Bridge Animal Hospital is where you can find him, 208-0301 at Ross Bridge Vet. And, of course, the Ross Bridge Animal Hospital on Facebook. And we do Darkside the Pooch, brought to you by Ed's Pet World. We do it every Monday right here live on Tony Curre Radio at noon and 8. And check out all of our previous shows on demand on Spotify. Search Tony Curre Radio, info at TonyCurreRadio.net if you want to drop your emails. Let's go to our mutt mail here. Donald in Birmingham said that he had a dog named Jiffy that was a humper. This thing would just hump everything, and so he had it neutered in hopes that it would change its behavior a little bit, but it's still humping things. How often does neutering or spaying actually release some temperament from the animal, or perhaps some of its habitual things it's doing that you don't like?
If they're humping because of a sexual feeling or emotion, then it'll make that go away. But some dogs will hump to exert their dominance. So even female dogs will hump things, and usually it's because they're trying to show that they're dominant over something.
Okay.
And then sometimes when we talk about dogs and cats, I can't help but put that in human terms.
Uh-huh.
So, can you imagine if humans, the way that we exerted our dominance, we would just dry hump, just a person, I'm bigger and stronger than you, so take this.
Yeah, well, I think we've had some judges actually tell guys that they needed to be fixed, right? Because they're repeat sexual offenders. Yeah. Peggy in Marietta, Georgia wants to know, do cats fart? And if they do, she said she has one particular cat that just stinks. It always stinks. She's changed his diet. She changed his outdoor habits. She's done everything she possibly can, and the cat just stinks. She doesn't believe it's the fur, but she just thinks the animal stinks. What does that tell you about this cat?
Cats do fart. I mean, they don't fart as much as dogs do, or at least they're not as loud about it or as stinky about it. But there's lots of reasons that a cat could stink. Ear infection, skin infection, bad breath. Again, it could be cat has gas, so that's a diet thing. So you can maybe change the diet or add a probiotic or something like that. They have glands that are inside their bottoms called anal glands, and sometimes those can cause a problem. And so they're expressing these glands, and it kind of has a fishy smell to it. So yeah, that's a tough one because there's so many things that can make them smelly.
Yeah. That's some great questions there. We got a lot of cat questions here. Another cat question here from Ben in Dayton, Ohio. And I think we've actually talked about this before. We'll get back into it. What are polydactyl cats, and why does it happen?
It's when they have too many toes. So, you can have one foot that has too many toes, or you can have every foot. You can have cats that have 3 extra digits on a paw or 1 extra digit. And it's just a genetic deformity. There's nothing wrong with the cat. Nothing major wrong. I mean, I guess technically there's something wrong with it. It's abnormal, but nothing that's going to limit its life or anything. Just more toenails to clip.
Yeah.
To do it.
I would think it'd be kind of cool. What's the most digits you've seen on a cat?
I saw 7 on 1 foot.
Really?
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah. And I wish I could remember which ones had, repeat toes, but and multiple feet were affected. It wasn't just one.
Are there claws on all those too?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. So I think the cat had 7 on both back feet, 7 on the front feet, and then I think maybe 6 on the back.
Wow. That doesn't even sound fair to a little baby bird or a mole. I mean, you're dead meat.
Yeah, the cat's hand was as big as mine.
Oh, wow. That's not one of those.
It wasn't really.
That's not a cat you want to bathe. You just want to leave that. If it jumps into your fireplace, you want to leave that cat alone. Brought to you by Ed's Pet World. This Darkside the Pooch here at live noon and 8 every Monday right here on Tony Curry Radio. And thanks to thousands of folks who listen every single week. You can find Dr. Rab Stewart at the Rossbridge Animal Hospital. He's great. Zane in Red Rocks. The first time we've got an email from Red Rocks out west. Says, have you seen, Dr. Rab, the TikTok video Cats and Cucumbers? I actually pulled it up. It's hilarious, but you do talk about the PTSD that can come along with cats being scared the hell out of by snakes and cucumbers. Evidently, they're putting cucumbers right behind a cat. As soon as the cat turns around, sees the cucumber, jumps for the ceiling. Why do they jump for the ceiling? And talk about how that can affect the welfare of your kitty cat.
I don't know why they would do that. It surprises them for some reason. I don't know. They don't eat their vegetables. My kids do that sometimes too. They see like a vegetable and they like run away. So yeah. I guess the humans and cats are similar like that. But I mean, they can have an aversion to stuff or even places. If you scare them in a certain place, they could have an aversion to that place. So it's a fun TikTok video, but it might cause you a lot of grief in the long run. So I would say, unless you're going to make a lot of money from the TikTok video, try not to scare your cat.
Yeah. It seems to me, based on the cat I have, that whenever something happens to a cat that it's not used to, that scares the bejeebers out of it. But like a lot of people, there's snake videos too where they put the rubber snake behind the cat. And I don't know if cats are just automatically scared of snakes or the fact that they don't know what's behind them at the time is what scares the bejeebers out of them, correct?
Yeah. I mean, I think it could be anything that, if it's going to startle them. It doesn't matter what it is. If they're in that mode to be, they don't see it coming or expect it coming. It doesn't matter what you put back there.
Yeah. Terry in Gardendale has heard all kinds of stories about dogs being colorblind. Is it true? And if it is true, what colors do they see and what colors do they not see?
No, it's not true. And this is something that it's not a really pertinent medical issue. So it's something that I'm not incredibly familiar with, but we have rods and cones that help us distinguish things like that, like color and stuff. And dogs have them too. And I forget if they have more rods than cones or vice versa. So they do see color. They don't see color the same as we do. But if the question is, do dogs just basically see everything in a grayscale? They do not. Like they do see color. I think that it's just a little bit different as far as a perceptibility thing than it is for us.
Yeah, and I did a little research on this and saw that dogs can see red and green, but they don't recognize blue and some of the other colors on the spectrum, which I don't know why, but I'm assuming they could be colorblind, just like human beings could be.
Yeah, and that's the difference between having a different number of rods and cones.
Yeah.
That's why you would be able to see some colors and not pick up on others.
There you go. Mutt Mail, info at TonyCurryRadio.net, info at TonyCurryRadio.net, or go to TonyCurryRadio.net. Become a bonehead. You can leave your emails on our website. And, of course, this is Darkside the Pooch. Great show. It's one of our longest running shows and one of our most successful runs every Monday at noon and 8. And check it out on Spotify. You go back and listen to all the shows we've done. We've done a million of them on Spotify. Search Tony Curry Radio Darkside the Pooch and you'll see a beautiful picture. It was the idea of Dr. Rab Stewart, Darkside the Pooch. It's got the Pink Floyd triangle there with a picture of my blue heeler right in the middle of it. It's fantastic. Amanda in Seattle has a very interesting question. She said it's summertime. A lot of people are wanting to travel and they don't want to take their animals with them. And if obviously you can go to Rossbridge Animal Hospital and have them boarded, or you can have a neighbor watch. She had a neighbor watch her dog while she was gone for 10 days. And when she came back, the animal was healthy, it was fed, it was all good. But the person who watched her animal walked it twice a day, which you would think would be a good thing. But now this animal is demanding it be walked. And it was an indoor pet. It was an animal. She goes, I don't have time to walk my dog. I don't want. And so she kind of set some different parameters for the animal. They fed it a different food that she wanted them to feed it. And now it's expecting walks. She said it was super healthy. She said, but it just changed my dog. She goes, what is etiquette? And what is fair to ask of someone when they're watching your animal for a week?
I mean, I think you could ask them anything.
Yeah.
You can ask them anything, but you just need to be upfront as to what you want done and what you don't want done. I mean, you can ask them that they teach the dog to make you dinner by the time you get back. And if they agree to doing it, then fine, whatever. But I've never really had, that's one of those things where you don't, as the pet owner, anticipate that you're going to need to tell somebody what to do or not to do. So I think that's probably just a lesson. And sometimes you have to just be over the top with your communication. Here's what I want. Here's what I don't want. And I think that's just an interesting lesson in communication and giving instructions.
Typically, what is the pay scale? If someone's watching your animal for a week, what should you expect to pay if you're willing to pay?
I think it just depends on what all that you're doing. If you're just going over to their house twice a day and giving them, some food and some water and maybe letting them outside to go to the bathroom for 5 or 10 minutes, then, I think maybe $20, a day, potentially.
But if you're actually taking the dog home and watching it 7 days, what, a couple $100, 150, something like that?
Yeah. I mean, if they're taking your dog out for walks for a half hour or, taking it to their house, then, I would say you're probably going to be over double that, like maybe $50 a day.
Yeah. It sounds like Amanda's friend in Seattle needs to get herself a dog. If she's willing to walk a dog twice a day, that's killer pet standard right there. That's pretty good stuff. Dr. Rab Stewart, Rossbridge Animal Hospital, Darkside, the Pooch, James Michael Keats. We have a couple minutes left here. He is super stoked about his beautiful Australian Shepherd he's getting. I'll send you some updated photos. You're going to have a new customer coming to Rossbridge Animal Hospital here in the next few weeks. Do you have any other questions you'd like to ask Dr. Rab about your animal?
Yeah, sure. Of course, I have like a million questions that I would love to ask Dr. Rab, but I'll limit to one. So the breeder said that we ought to have it go to the vet within 72 hours and also schedule some sort of like obedience, like training, like early. And I suppose the question is, I was a little worried about socialization too early because, 9 weeks, right? That's when we're picking her up. And I suppose I need to know when we should do the training, when we should start the initial training, and maybe some things to look for in a good trainer.
I would start the socialization as soon as you guys get her, because their socialization window is from about 6 weeks to 12 weeks of age. So if you don't introduce them to people and other dogs during that time, then the chances of them being fearful of people or other pets, or really a ton of things like loud noises, that risk goes up, if they're not socialized well. But since they're not fully vaccinated, you want to be sure that the pets that you're doing the socialization with are healthy and fully vaccinated. So as long as they are, then it's more of a risk to not socialize them, than to put them with other dogs, because we see a lot of pets that have not been around any other dogs or people, and they're really hard to deal with. So even for breeders, I think it's important that the pet owner ask them, hey, what happens as far as their socialization between the ages of 3 and 6 weeks, or 6 and 9 weeks, or whenever I'm going to get the dog. Tell me what you do. And if you have a breeder that understands socialization, how important it is, then you're probably going to end up getting a dog that is not going to be real fearful and be a good teachable pet.
So we got to meet the puppy last week. So I suppose she was 6 weeks old, and there are a lot of dogs running around there, not just from the litter, not just mom and dad, but there are like 3 or 4 other dogs. I mean, it's a pretty large facility, right? And I don't know if that's adequate. Obviously, we want to continue whatever good stuff that the breeders have started. I was just concerned about taking the dog to the dog park, because we don't really know about the vaccination status of all the puppies that are going to be there. But I was thinking that maybe in a training situation, especially if it's for young dogs, for little puppies, then there would be some like benchmark for how to get into those classes. Like all the vaccinations are done up to date at least, and this sort of thing. Is that I mean, there's no way for me to go to the dog park and be like, "Hey, does everyone have their shots?"
Yeah, yeah, you can't. Yeah, you can't do that. But if you have friends that have a dog, that's your best bet. To get them socialized. But the puppy classes are good too. But sometimes those puppy classes won't start until they're 12 weeks old. So that's something that you'll need to look into. But if you have friends that have dogs, then that's the best place to start, because that's an environment that you can control.
Great. Thanks.
There you go. He is Dr. Rab Stewart. He is all knowledgeable when it comes to any of your pet needs right there at the Rossbridge Animal Hospital. And again, their phone number is 208-0301, 208-0301, area code 205, the Rossbridge Animal Hospital. Rossbridge Vet on Twitter, the Rossbridge Animal Hospital, of course, on Facebook. And, of course, you can listen to the show every Monday right here. It's Darkside, the Pooch, Mondays here at noon and 8, and also on Spotify. Search Tony Curre Radio, Curry with a K, and you can check it out. Brought to you by Ed's Pet World. They love exotic pets. I've done all my shopping down there. They have all the things you need, the food and all that stuff too, but I've got my Balboa down there. I get my fish from down there, chinchillas. We got rabbits down there. They've got it all, ferrets. They have beautiful birds that will sing and talk. They got all those things, tarantulas, bearded dragons, you name it. If you're into exotic pets, caiman, alligators, they got it all, man. Check it out at Ed's Pet World. And again, Seth that travels the United States of America looking for great toys. Dr. Rab's got a bunch of Beanie Babies he's going to be taking down there. Maybe he's a millionaire and doesn't even know it. He searches high and wide for great toys in boxes, Star Wars stuff, watches, collectibles. If you've got some stuff you want to buy, sell, and trade, do it with Seth down there at Ed's Pet World. Ed's Pet World, in business for nearly 50 years. Dr. Rab, as always, great stuff. We'll catch up with you next week, my friend.
Thanks, guys. See you then.
Thank you, brother.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Curre Radio.